Yo, how you going everybody? Steve here. Welcome back to the Command Centre, or otherwise known as Stevanius. I think that's going to be my new name from now on, Stevanius. But fantastic. So look, today I want to talk to you about something that I've been sort of hypothesizing about for a couple of weeks now, actually. Well, in actual fact, it's been a little bit longer than that. But I want to talk to you about the return of the Lion, right? Now, the return of Lionel Johnson of the Dark Angels. Okay, now, the thing is basically that I believe that this guy is going to be rocking up this year, all right? And I also believe that he's going to be awesome. And I believe that he possibly may even be in the next codex. Now, just before we move forward, I just want to say that this isn't a speculation video, right? Now, what I mean by that is basically that, like, speculation is, you know, where you go through and you just get a whole bunch of bullcrap, you put it all together to try and get yourself views and all this kind of stuff like that. You're on the wrong channel for that. So I'll just tell you right here, right now, as one of our awesome subscribers, you know, Dr. Valiant said today, okay, to me, Doc Valiant, you know, it's all about gathering the data, you know, and basically, you know, quantifying the evidence and decimating the information, right? That's what we're doing here. So this is what I'm doing. It's a hypothesis. It's an estimate. It's an opinion based off actual facts, not just, whoa, brothers, it's glorious. You know, I gotta go buy like 5 more repulsors so GW can give me info earlier and stuff like that. No, none of that. Basically, as I said, this channel, you know, we get our respect from places, even with only like just over 1,000 subscribers. So we don't need to shill out. We don't. Here it's about the hardcore facts. So look, if you're into that, you're into Warhammer, the hardcore facts, awesome stuff, consider subscribing to the channel, like, share the video, epic, helps a lot. But if not, you know, thanks for watching anyway, and it should be fine. Now, first of all, the Lion in the Fluff. So I actually never used to be a massive fan of the Lion, to be honest. I thought he was okay. I never hated the guy. I never disliked him. But I just was a bit like, meh, you know, whatever. But the thing is, like, I've been doing a lot of reading into the Horus Heresy books and stuff like that. And this guy, man, he is a freaking brutal dude. You know, I'm a big fan of Gilliman. I'm sort of painting him up right now. I was gonna, it's a bit of a shame because, you know, I had him in my Ultramarines list, my new Ultramarines list, but then I had a discussion last night with someone, and you know, we kind of worked out that it's probably not really worth it, considering, like I said, I've got another video on a Gravis Captain for 108 points, and then you add like a Phobos Lieutenant to that, he'll give you your reroll plus all the other stuff. You know, for like, you know, under 200 points, you could basically have a Gilliman with all the right warlord traits and chapter tactics and stratagems and stuff. But anyway, check that out in one of my other videos. This is about Lionel Johnson. And so the thing is that, like, this guy, he is a brutal machine, where Gilliman is more of a statesman. Gilliman is more of, you know, sort of like, you know, he is a bit of a Caesar, right? So he is a warrior, but he rocks up. He's all about, you know, acquiring territory and stuff like that. Where Lionel Johnson is basically more like, you know, he's more of the barbarian a little bit. He's kind of like that, you know, that brutal knight that just rocks in the combat and just, you know, smashes things up. He's a lot more aggressive, I guess. And he's one of the best combatants, right? You know, if you go into Horus Heresy lore, things like that, you know, he's actually one of the, you know, most brutal fighters, up there with Angron, Horus, and Lehman Russ and things like that. So, you know, and although Sanguinius is up there as well, I know that he is, but, you know, even though he's flying and stuff, so, you know, it's there. But, you know, but he'll go through and just, you know, he doesn't give a crap. He'll just smack the crap out of stuff. Now, there's always been those rumors that he's like, you know, sort of, he's not loyal. He's turned to chaos and things like that. And I always had question marks over my head, you know, about that kind of stuff. But I've actually been reading, I think it's, the one I'm reading now is called The Primarchs, and it's book 20, and there's like there's basically like 4 stories, I think, in one. I actually bought it for a Omegon, the Alpha Legion story, where he's basically like, you know, it's implied that he's, you know, taking loyal Marines and stuff, Alpha Legion, and heading them back into Terra. But alongside that, there's like, I think there's a Fulgrim story, there's an Iron Hand story, and then there's basically there's a Lionel Johnson story. And going through this, like he is absolutely brutal. You know, there's a scene in it where he goes through, and one of the Marines is you know, as the Marines call him, my liege. They basically, you know, they start questioning him, and Lionel Johnson just basically just comes out, and you know, he basically just shoots the Marine like in the head. And like the guys, there's blood, and there's like his own Marine is like, you know, smashed up helmet and stuff. And you know, one of the astropaths is there, and she's like, oh, like thing. And the thing is with Lionel Johnson though, is that he has remorse. So you know, whereas Horus will go, and I think that's what stopped him from turning, you know, fully to the dark side, if you will, because he's actually got a conscience. I don't think he's been able, even though he is brutal. You know, he's still got that conscience which holds him there. And, you know, and he had remorse after that. But then he's doing other things, like he's going through and he's literally just leaping into demons and warp, you know, entities and things like that. And just the guy's, you know, the guy's sort of tact, you know, the way he does it, you know, is like, well, did you see that coming? You know, and just wham, just smashing demonic entities. And there's also a scene in there which is very brutal, where he's talking to, again, one of his little brothers, as he calls them, and which is pretty condescending when you think about it, actually. It's almost like a dictatorship in a way, like it's very feudal. And he says, okay, you know, little brothers, like, you know, we're talking about going back to Terra and you know, helping out in that. And one of his Marines turns around and says, you know, well, like, of course, you know, like, we've got to, you know, we're not going to let Horus win. You know, that's what it's all about here. We're going to protect Terra. We're going to protect, you know, humanity, protect, you know, the Emperor and stuff like that, and the Imperium. And that's where our loyalties lie, you know, there's no doubts. Like, there isn't even a doubt. And the Marine thought he was, like, you know, answering correctly. And then Lionel Johnson just turns around and he's basically like, you know, he's like, well, brother, like, what about your loyalty to me, you know? So he was, you know, from the very beginning, this guy has been out there, you know, he's kind of on his own a bit, you know, and there's some other rumors going on around about the guy that, you know, he was basically just holding back from the Battle of Terra, you know, rocking up late to see who won the war. He was just going to side on whoever won, whether it be Horus or whether it be the Emperor and things like that. But I mean, you know, suffice to say, the dude is, you know, is brutal. Like, Guilliman would never come out and just, you know, like, shoot one of his other Marines in the head just for asking, you know, just speaking back to him. That I know of, right? That I know of. There might be something there in the law that's basically gone through that. I'm not sure, but that I know of, he wouldn't do that. And yeah, so yeah, speculation, right? This isn't speculation. This is a hypothesis. This is an estimate. There's a massive difference. And we're going to get on with it. And, you know, like I said, this is just stuff that I've come to. You know, I've had a chat to Oni Adonis about some of this stuff, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, but I feel as though it's a grounds for an argument of Lionel Johnson coming back this year. And look, I mean, to be honest, right, let's just say hypothetically, I did actually know that he was coming back, like, for sure, hypothetically speaking, and someone may have told me this, I wouldn't be able to tell you anyway, right? So it's basically like, you know, whatever. But this is what I believe, and I thought I'd share it with you guys. So fantastic. So let's get into it. All right. So the number one reason, which indicates to me, there's a few numbered reasons, by the way, that Lionel Johnson might potentially be coming back this year, is the fact that Guilliman got nerfed so badly. Now, I know that people saying, you know, like, oh yeah, but nah, look, he just got nerfed because he was too OP and all this kind of stuff to begin with. They needed to bring him down and all that. The thing is, like, Guilliman's been OP for a long time, right? If they really wanted to nerf him more, they would have gone up. They would have put his points increase up. Okay, you know, but it seems to me like what they've done here with Gilliman is actually just balanced him out a little bit more, so that it gives room to put him up against like another Primarch. Because Games Workshop, like, you know, I believe, I'm just going to say when they release Lion, because I think that, you know, they are going to release him at some point, you know, so I'm just going to say when. You know, when they release the Lion, you know, they don't want to make Gilliman completely obsolete, right? But at the same time, they don't want to basically have, you know, the Lion being too weak, because then, like, what's the point in buying the Lionel Johnson, right, if, you know, Gilliman's still the man, right? So, you know, stuff with the balancing, it's got to provide an advantage, but it can't be, you know, too OP that, like, people aren't going to buy other stuff. You know, so, like, you know, gamers for the most part, you know, they want an advantage these days. It's not always about balance. It's more about having an advantage over other people. If you look at the, you know, the way, you know, the Warhammer game's written, the release of the Codex and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a whole book of advantages. It's just different advantages. Each faction has an advantage. Each stratagem is a different advantage. So it's really a game of advantages, really. And then you've got the whole pay-to-win thing. We won't get into that, but it is kind of a thing. So yeah, so I reckon, like, they've nerfed Gilliman to make room for the Lion. You know, they brought him down to 350 points, okay? And they brought his wound rolls down to a 1. You know, and I reckon, I mean, that gives them room to bring the Lion in now and sort of play with that a little bit. Whereas, like, maybe, you know, he doesn't get wound rolls at all. Maybe he gets something else. But we'll get into that later, because I'm going to talk about a little bit later what I think his rules actually should be. So if you made it this far through the video, thank you very much. Please consider subscribing, thumbs, share, and fantastic, you know. But yeah, so that's basically why. We're basically making room in the meta, in the creep, right? Because if we, you know, we can't make, like, the Lion, we can't just go, okay, you know, Gilliman, you know, gets rerolls of every of 1, and then, you know, and then Lion just gets rerolls of everything, and then he's awesome, because that's just too obvious. Games Workshop is smarter than that, and basically that's basically the thing there. Now the second thing is it's a pretty obvious one now. Like, I mean, you know, I'm not going to sound like a broken record, but we all know it. But it is a thing. This is another reason. This is my second reason why, you know, it would make sense, and why I believe we're getting Lionel Johnson this year. And the second reason is because, well, we got only, you know, one Loyalist Primarch in 40k right now, and, you know, there's 2 other Primarchs, Demon Primarchs, coming out as well. But that's pretty obvious. We all know about that. I'm not going to spend time talking about that, okay? I'm happy to answer anyone's questions in the comments and things like that, you know, whatever you think. So that's all good. The next thing is, the third reason I reckon Lionel Johnson might be rocking up this year is the lore push with him in the White Dwarf, right? So in the most recent White Dwarf, there's, you know, going to be there's been a lore push where it's basically expanded their lore a little bit like that. You know, it's basically sparking interest in the faction, okay, and you know, it's definitely, you know, a factor. Okay, in it. Now, again, I won't go into all that lore. That's another video, okay? We're just talking about reasons here. The next one, okay, and which is pretty crazy, because this next one's actually really crazy, because I heard this rumor before, and, you know, people were talking about, you know, the rumored order of Space Marine supplements being released from Games Workshop. And then someone came out and said, and I think I was watching this on Keriov's channel, someone came out and said, oh, they're going to be releasing, you know, Blood Ravens and Iron Hands at the same time, and then they're going to do, like, you know, other stuff later on down the track. And I think Keriov said it, and I agreed with him, and this is where Games Workshop have kind of stoked me a little bit. You know, I agreed with him when he said, as I remember it, he said that, you know, Games Workshop aren't going to release 2 factions of the same color at the same time, because it doesn't make sense for branding, doesn't make sense for marketing. You know, all their stuff always contrasts together. Like, you know, the Dark Elder, what was it called again? I got it over here. the Tooth and Claw, you've got Space Wolves, your Grey, you got your Gene Stealer Colts, on the other spectrum. The Eldar one with the Wake the Dead, that's the one I was after. You got the bright blue Ultramarines, you got the bright red, Eldar. So usually when they do releases, it's a marketing thing. They call it color contrast stuff. So, and I believe that's what he said. I'm not 100% sure now because a few weeks ago. But either way, that's what I thought, okay? And for that reason, I just thought it was crazy because as we all know, now, what have we got? We've got Blood Ravens and we've got the Iron Hands supplements coming out in 2 weeks on pre-order as of next week. So that's pretty crazy. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, why did they do that? It could be, and I'm thinking it leads me to believe that they're doing this thing with the colors like right now, and they're just taking the hit with it now because they want to release the Dark Angels Codex further on in the year, more towards Christmas, and that way, and the Lion's in it, and they basically want to go through and have that pushed back, to the end. And then that way they're releasing the 2 codexes now with Iron Hands, the Blood Raven. Sorry, Raven Guard. Did I say Blood Ravens before? Probably did. Whatever, Raven Guard, right? So so basically, yeah, and that's another indicator which I think that the Lion might be coming this year. Now, the other reason why, and this is now number 5, is that we didn't get any Primarchs last year. All right, even though we needed them, even though good old Bobby G needed his reinforcements, we didn't get any. Right, so the thing is, I mean, even though Calgar is awesome and Abaddon is awesome, and I'm extremely glad we have those models, especially the Abaddon model, because the Abaddon model was just off the chart horrible. Not horrible, but just very out of date, out of scale. We're in the age of Primaris Marines, and counting, and going up. And then here you got this tiny little Abaddon guy, okay, but whatever. But they're still not Primarchs. And although I'm happy about them, they're no Primarchs, and I would prefer a Primarch release any day over, some lesser heroes, if you will, or, or minor heroes, I guess you'd call them. And I think, I could be so bold as to say that that Abaddon is a minor hero when you look at some of the other, sort of Primarchs and stuff like that. Horus himself, Matari running around, Fulgrim, etc. But basically, yeah, so there's that one. And we also, now the other one, this is reason number 7. Number 6. There was a rumor mill that came out about maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago. It had this big long lock of hair, right? And then it had, and to me, that was the Lion right there. The Lion, he's got his sort of like hair tied back or whatever. It doesn't make sense to me as a model, not only for the sprue and the economy of the plastic, model and Games Workshop's manufacturing, that they would have Lionel Johnson there as a model with this big lock of Fabio hair. It doesn't make sense. So I believe that if and when they do release a Lionel Johnson model, there's more of a chance that the hair will be a top knot or put back in a ponytail or something like that. And it makes more sense for combat as well, for fighting. So not only is it more resource, savvy to do it in your molding and your sprueing, but also it's better in your, for your on the board as well. You know what I mean? So I believe that rumor mill photo was the Lion, and I believe that's connected to it. See, guys, stuff's coming together, right? Stuff's coming together pretty wicked. There's a lot of reasons, why things are pointing towards the Lion right now. And the other thing is, too, in the wording. I can't remember exactly what the wording was now, but it was something like, in the future, this, that, people will rise and all this. And, I believe it was sort of connected all, more towards, Lionel Johnson, rising up, coming out of his slumber and things like that. So that's that one. Now, 7, Games Workshop have announced a whole bunch of new Dark Angels models. And from what I've heard, they're apparently doing Primaris redos as well. You know, some of these models include very substantial releases, you know, like Deathwing Dreadnoughts and stuff like that, from what I've seen. I believe there's a Deathwing Dreadnought. I'm not sure what the other ones are. Let me know in the comments down below, guys, if you know what some of the new units are. I think there was Deathwing Aggressors as well. I heard something that they were looking to do, like, you know, a lot of stuff with the Aggressors as well. So, you know, I mean, that's a pretty massive indicator that they're gearing up for something big. And we know that Games Workshop are due up for another box set, you know, coming up. And we only got a couple months till Christmas. So to me, that's a pretty big indicator about what's going on. So the other thing is that Games Workshop like Dark Angels. Now, I know that a lot of people on that would probably disagree with me, and they'll be going, "Oh yeah, boy, the freaking man, they didn't get anything in their Primaris release, and you know, like this and that." Yeah, but look, so, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, they're poster boys like, you know, Ultramarines, but they get the love. They're one of the top 3 ones, right, or top 4. You know, Ultramarines, Dark Angels, and Blood Angels, I think, get the most love. You know, I'd say Space Wolves, but the thing is, they're always last to release a codex, and, you know, they're more of a niche side. I mean, I like Space Wolves, don't get me wrong. I'm not putting crap on Space Wolves. But at the end of the day, see, if a lot of people who just gotten into Warhammer over the last 2-3 years, they might actually not even know this, but in 7th edition, Games Workshop, their whole massive instruction manual was basically had a massive Dark Angel on the front. Also, their box sets at the time, which were one of the best valued box sets aside from Dark Imperium, was the Dark Vengeance box, which is right here, which I can pull out. I actually got 3 of these. But so there they are right there. There's a few pieces in there, like bikers and that I haven't put together. And mind you, I can show you this right here. Is that upside down? Okay, yeah, it is. So this guy right here, right, this was the box set. Right, we're not talking Ultramarines here. We're talking Dark Angels, and also in that box set, you know, you could actually get expansions as well. Let me see what's on here, because I know I've put a few of them together, but there might be a start collecting book in here somewhere. Okay, look, I'm not going to stall the video, but after this box set, they basically brought out expansion box sets for it, of Dark Angel stuff, you know, like the Nephilim fighters and things like that came in boxes and stuff like that, right? So Games Workshop like Dark Angels, and people like Dark Angels, all right? And I think that they're, you know, they're not Ultramarines. They're not Ultra Smurfs. Don't get me wrong. You know, they're not going to be the poster boys like Ultra Smurfs. I'm sorry, but Ultramarines, you know, will be the prodigal son, if you will, you know, probably forever, because they just sell, you know, people love that blue and gold, okay? But yeah, it's due up, all right? It's due up. So there's another reason. And my 8th reason for why I think that, you know, Lionel Johnson's coming is that what a perfect time to do it. We've now got the new Marine Codex come out, okay? We now have supplements, and the supplement for Dark Angels hasn't been released yet. So they've got an opportunity to put Lionel Johnson in the Codex, and it's going to be a massive selling point for Games Workshop if they go through and chuck him in the Codex. Like, I can tell you right now, like, if you chuck Lionel Johnson in that Codex, in that supplement for Marines, you could go through and you know, people are going to buy that. They're going to drop it like it's hot, whether they're Dark Angels players or not. All right, now I've got a Dark Angels army. It's not massive, maybe 2,000-3,000 points of dudes, compared to some other armies. But I can tell you now, Lion comes out, I'll be buying him. I'll be buying Hellblasters. I'll be getting my Dark Angels going, that's for sure. Just on principle, a bit of nostalgia. And a lot of people, from what I've spoken to as well, they really, really, really like, you know, they started on the Dark Angels. Like, a lot of people, they just started on them. Me, myself, I sort of started on my own chapter in Warhammer back in, well, I started painting in 2nd edition, and I started having a few skirmishes in 2nd, but really it just all started coming to table on 3rd edition for me. But yeah, so those are my reasons why, and those are the reasons why, like, you know, I think that he's on his way, and I just think the ingredients are there. I think the stars have aligned, and there's been rumors for the last year or two that, you know, his model's been made anyway, and that, like, you know, they've been gearing up for it, and it just makes sense. It just makes sense, and I really think it's time, especially last year, you know, Games Workshop, they don't want to be releasing all their star Primarchs, you know, all at once, but at the same time, you know, I think it's time they need a really big release now, you know, at the end of the, and I think that's going to be the Lion, and I think he's going to be awesome. So, all right, now, if you're with me this long through the video, just like to thank you very much. You know, the YouTube gods shall be pleased, and they're going to help this video, you know, up in the search results for it. And so thank you very much. And now we're going to have a talk about some of, you know, as a designer myself, some of the rules which I think, you know, could be, you know, viable for Lionel Johnson on the table. Like, what would I think Lionel Johnson should be like on the table in Warhammer? So look, if there is anyone from Games Workshop watching, or rule writers or anything, you know, maybe I'm right about some of this prediction here, but maybe if I'm not right, maybe if Lionel Johnson is far off in the sky for now, maybe it's someone else, maybe we'll get a Khan model or whatever, maybe it's some suggestions for you guys you might be able to go through and draw from. So, okay, so rules for Lionel Johnson. If he does come out, what do I think that his rules will be on the table? To be quite honest with you, I think he's going to be very, very close, very, very similar to Guilliman, but with differences. As I discussed before in the previous start of the video, okay, talking about, like, you know, giving advantages but not completely wiping out Robbie G. You know, like, and I think that most of the strengths, the toughness, all that kind of stuff is going to be the same. I reckon what they'll probably do, and based on the fluff, based off Lionel Johnson and the way he fights, what he does in the universe, is, you know, I think he'll be probably one more attack than Guilliman, but I think he'll be one less wound. I think that's one way you can sort of like make him different from Guilliman, but make him more awesome. Because Lionel Johnson, he's more of a fighter. You know, he's more of an attacker, whereas Guilliman's an attacker too. But let's face it, without the Emperor's Sword on him, he would just be, you know, he would be pretty average. Guilliman's always been more of a Caesar. He's been more of the Emperor. And, you know, Guilliman, you know, he's got his McCraig Empire, and things like that, you know, of his 500 worlds or whatever it is, where, you know, where Lionel Johnson is more of a conqueror. All right. And so I think that would help, you know, to make it more fluffy as well, and provide a bit of a balance between Guilliman and an incentive to take the Lion, you know, whereas at the same time, not completely wiping Guilliman out. Now, in terms of his abilities, so I reckon the re-rolls to hit would be the same, like, because it's pretty much Chapter Master, Captain, like, just all across the board. Primarchs, give him his full re-rolls a hit, 100%. He is a Primarch. He needs to be busting out, okay? But I think that, like, instead of the re-roll to wound, and this is why I think they've sort of nerfed Guilliman down a little bit as well, instead of the re-roll to wound, I reckon that they could do something with, number one, Azrael can give him his helmet back, and which then everybody gets, like, you know, an invulnerable save in a certain radius, most likely 6 around him, which would be pretty powerful. Like, you imagine having, you know, a character like that there, and then, you know, all the Hellblasters being, you know, +5 invul, whatever. You know, but I would sort of still make sure to make it balanced and say that, you know, the models would have to be wholly within that 6-inch radius, just so it stops, you know, people from just creating, like, armies of plasma, because that's going to get a little bit cheesy. You know, it's like, yeah, you got like 3, you know, we've got the 3 data sheet rule. You've got like 3, you know, you can have 3 squads of 10 Hellblasters, and then you're just going to get like all these, you know, Devastators with plasma and plasma and plasma. The problem is it's going to break the game too much. So I reckon you got to look for some kind of a way to, like, nerf a little bit where it puts limitations on the player to like how much invulnerable saves you can give in the units. And I think by doing that, they did it to the Dredeo Dreadnought. A lot of people don't know about that. I was having a conversation with someone over Facebook or one of the groups the other day about it, and they were talking about like parking all this crap up around a dread, and just having like a whole army. And it's just like, no, look, it's wholly within 6. You get basically a 5+ invulnerable. So I reckon, look, maybe Lionel can give everybody within the bubble of 6 or wholly within 6 a 4+ invulnerable. That's pretty powerful. And although they're not re-rolling the wound, they're still getting an invul. Because I think Dark Angels have enough, DACA anyway with their plasma stratagem, the 3 damage kind of stuff. And the other thing that I think they could do, and I was thinking about doing this, I was thinking, well, how could you give him, because plasma is kind of like a Dark Angel thing. The re-roll morale thing, you could give him that too. The plasma, I was thinking, okay, maybe you could like get him to like, re-roll the plasma misses and then, or choose the highest or whatever, kind of like Melter, sort of like to give the damage on the plasma a little bit better of a buff. But then I thought, no, well, if you're going to be re-rolling the wound, or if you're going to be re-rolling a hit anyway, that's kind of going to make him, that feature redundant, because you're re-rolling the hit anyway, right? So what's the point if you get like a re-roll of a 1, So I reckon that they could do for Lionel Johnson is basically they could go through and they could have basically give him Bolter Discipline, but for plasma. So his, plasma wholly within 6 of his arc, can basically fire, assault plasma could fire twice at full range, or rapid fire. So like rapid fire plasma weapons, and there are also combis, can fire, rapid fire at full range. So I think that'd be pretty sweet. And I reckon somewhere around that mark, I think those would be his rules. Going outside of that, that's for about the 350 point mark. Going outside of that, I reckon you're probably gonna have to look at increasing his points at that point. Because otherwise, like if you give him like, all that plus a reroll to wounds, then it's not fair that he's the same as Gilliman, right? Problem is that Gilliman is as good as he is. You don't want him in close combat. Ultramarines are primarily ranged, which causes some problems, but that's going to be in another video. Awesome. So look, I just want to close this video off by once again thanking everybody for watching, and also just talking about a little bit of the fluff, like how would they bring Lionel Johnson back. So what I reckon would be epic, okay, and I'll just keep this short because I might do another hypothetical video on this, but I'm not big on the speculation videos. I'll be honest with you. I'm more of a hard fact kind of guy. Saying it the way it is, no shit kind of guy. So basically it's like this. So what could happen is Lionel Johnson could come back. Basically, he wakes up from his slumber. He basically sees that Gilliman is now, pretty much like the War Master, okay? And then Gilliman, and then Lionel Johnson, because he does have a massive ego, literally just comes out, calls Gilliman out and says, "You're a punk bitch. I'm the man. You're full of it, blah, 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 blah." And I reckon that it'd be awesome to have like a little mini civil war, almost like a little mini Horus Heresy, inside the, between the Ultramarines and between the Dark Angels. And just have them in there, and maybe they'll be like allies here and there, like, if Mortarion comes or Magnus comes, they'll team up, but maybe they can have this kind of like feud going on, kind of like, the Dark Angels had with the Space Wolves. Was it Dark Angels Space Wolves? Or was it Thousand Suns? I think it was Dark Angels Space Wolves. I've got to just fact check that. But probably, of course, there'll be some, one in the comments who will just go, "Ugh," but like, whatever. Go for it. Get my, pump those dislikes. So basically, but I think that'd be awesome to have that sort of rivalry. And then, someone could rock up, like that could be going on for a year or two within the lore. And then someone like, like Vulcan could rock up, 2 years later, and he could be a Primarch release and just be like, "All right, guys, love, peace, James Brown, friggin', feels good. You know, guys stop fighting, love it. You know, and he basically smooths it all over. Everybody loves everybody. You know, all that kind of stuff like that. So I think that could also be a really, really good you know, video to do one day as well. Talk about that lore. So fantastic. All right, everybody, awesome. So look, I'll leave it with the air today. I hope you enjoyed the video.